Firekeeper Circle. My name is Marcella MacArthur, and you can come and join us live at onefeatherjournal.com, and you can chat with us live. Tonight we have a special guest, Zen Shoemaker. But in the meantime, I want to introduce the star of our show, Chris Anderson Onefeather. How are you tonight?
I'm doing fabulous. And how are things down there in the Lone Star region?
It is wonderful and hot, and it's a happy Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there today.
Yes, and all of the grandmothers and all of the great-grandmothers. And it is a celebration of motherhood this midpoint in May. Do you have children, Zen?
I do. I have a daughter. So it's a happy Mother's Day for me and a grandson.
Oh, wonderful. How's the grandpup?
Nicholas is 8 years old.
Nice. That's a great age.
Yeah, he's a hoot. He's a Leo, and he's a Leo.
Oh, Leos are wonderful, and Leo's named Nicholas. Is he? Is there a little bit of Greek in there somewhere, or did the Nicholas come more from the Slavic Russian kind of thing?
Well, the Nicholas came from Michelle's, my daughter's favorite author. So she named him after an author that she loves to read. So I thought that was lovely.
That is absolutely perfect. And does he get upset when people call him Nicky, or is he on board with that?
Well, it's either Nick or Nicholas.
Yeah, so Nicky doesn't really fly with him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know a number of souls who are vibrating to the Nicholas vibration, and they don't like Nicky. Nicky is, I think Nicky is too feminine for the guys.
Yeah, I think maybe that could be right, because Nicholas's voice is real low already. He goes, hey Nana, how you doing?
Whoa. Well, and you know, being a Leo, he's going to be all about swag anyway. So.
Yes, I know. It's so wonderful. Yeah, yes. Big-hearted, loving person he is.
Yes, and they have a perennial sense of humor. I mean, in the least expected moments, they will burst out laughing, and you're going, "What the hell is that?"
Right. Well, Nicholas and I used to talk without using our mouth. Mm-hmm. So when he was little, we would just talk, and we could. So we did, and then sometimes I would do words, but I really wasn't saying any words. I was just, and he would answer me back. We both knew each other were talking. So they live in a different state. Mm-hmm. So we were talking on the phone one day, and Michelle grabs the phone from Nicholas, and she goes, "Mom, you have to stop it. He's trying to talk with everybody with his mind now, because, you have to stop it. He needs to use his words." And so we were both talking on the phone without moving our mouths. I mean, without words coming out. Oh, it was so funny. He laughed. He started laughing. I started laughing, and he goes, "Nana, we got her good, didn't we?"
Yes, it's terrible when your mother runs around the room thinking, I'm going deaf.
Right. Oh, so funny. But we crack up. He can make me laugh harder than anybody can make me laugh. Mm-hmm. Oh, my gosh. I love his sense of humor. So thank you for mentioning that. It was, he's a hoot.
That's wonderful. Well, and then down in Bluebonnet territory, Marcella, what did you and your daughter do to celebrate motherhood today?
Well, she made me a planter out of a bean can. There's flowers in it, and it says Mom on it. It was really cute. And she made me coffee this morning, so we had a really fun day.
Very good. So she's starting to be groomed for gourmet cooking now, huh?
Of course, and that's, I am a gourmet cook, if anybody wants to know.
Yeah, beans and coffee.
Well, I mean, that is a beginning.
You got it right away.
Oh, my goodness, we've got some humor going down here tonight, and it has been an interesting day in the Midwest, or at least my part of the Midwest. We've had kind of muggy, humid weather, and the clouds have been gathering all day, and then we got periodic downpours, lightning, thunder, all the wonderful aspects of spring. And now we've got flash flood watches going on, so the farmers are counting their cows to make sure that Bessie hasn't been washed down in the gullies or anything like that. But a normal spring in the Midwest, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And you're where are you located?
North Carolina.
Oh, so you're up there. Are you in the Appalachians?
No. I'm further towards the center, the Piedmont area.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, I was over in that area, not Piedmont, but in that northern extreme of North Carolina in Cherokee, which is right outside of Asheville, I believe.
Right.
And that was interesting because the Cherokee people have, they're kind of down in a hollow, and you drive for like 25 miles, winding road, mountains on both sides, and you come around this curve, and there is this like 30-story, 10 billion room hotel and gaming complex, and the whole thing is like, my God. Right. So I'm assuming that they must be putting on some pretty huge events there because supporting something like that has got to be horrific as far as just day-to-day maintenance.
The casino does a big business.
Well, and I would imagine that the convention center, I would imagine there's a lot of events that go on there too.
Yeah.
And it's a gorgeous area. So if any of the listeners ever get out to North Carolina, you definitely want to take a ride outside of Asheville, where the Biltmore is, and go up and see the Native American community there.
It's wonderful.
And that was where I got a plethora of them, but this is Herman, and Herman is a black bear, as you can see.
Oh, Herman's wonderful.
Yes, and that is a region that is rife with black bears. So.
Yeah.
And turkeys. My God, the turkeys in the Smoky Mountain area. Every time you go around a bend, there's like a whole flock of turkeys, and they're looking at you like, do you have food? If not, just get the hell out of here. So they're beyond domesticated turkeys.
Right.
Anyway, so Zen, Jeepers, I've known you for what, 5-6 years now? Maybe a little bit longer.
I would say, at least.
And you've gone through some multiple evolutionary shifts and stages here and kind of stepped into a bigger expression of self. So why don't you explain where you're at in your own personal journey right now and what you're doing and what services you offer to people, that sort of thing.
Well, you're right. Boy, I have had a big evolution. I think as most of us have been. I've been doing it very intentionally and thoughtfully and from the seat of my pants also. So I've been just surrendering into it, just flowing, going, following, and trying not to put too much of my brain into it, just come from the heart and follow where that's leading. And I've had some bumps along the way, bruises, but they've all taught me amazing things. So I think the one thing maybe Americans tend to forget that the downs are as important as the ups. I think sometimes we think they're more important, but I don't think they're more important. But I do think they're as important. And I'm now practicing gratitude and thanking the downs when I'm in it. So what that has brought me to is this expression of, I've now been on the air for a while, in different shows in the past, and I'm very happy to be here tonight. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak with you and Marcella. And but what I'm doing right now is I'm doing many things. I've got a business, Your Personal Zen, that I help people in the area. with their what I call 3D world, organizing, bookkeeping, and then I also do readings for people. And I do energy readings, I do psychic readings, I help people get unblocked if they're blocked, for a particular subject or past. And I'm also writing a children's book. It's based on my theory of God's eyes, and it's going to help children diffuse bullying and maybe see beneath the surface of the bully so they can see the root, and it doesn't affect them spiritually as rough as it would without this training, and appropriate ways in which to tell an adult to get help, so that it doesn't become a piece of negative self-worth, but it becomes a knowing, oh, that's why they're doing that. Oh, that could be it. And so I think if we equipped our children with just some lessons in looking in the underneath of the underneath, that they might not attack themselves as strongly as children are wont to do. So that's what I'm working on now, and I'm really excited about it. It's much harder than I anticipated, and it's also easier than I anticipated. So, it's a very interesting time and an exciting time.
It absolutely is. I think it was 2009 when we really collectively started to observe this acceleration, and it's just, it's a wild upward curve. It keeps throwing us new visions, new curves, new new plateaus that we arrive at. And I know that from my observation, and I think probably from the hardcore schools of psychology, especially Jungian psychology, but also Freudian psychology, when you're working with children who are bullies, and you start peeling the onion, you start getting rid of these layers of animosity and these layers of frustration and rage that is causing this sort of behavior. Generally, at the core, you find immense amount of pain that the child is carrying. And generally, it's either been physical or psychological abuse or both. So a lot of these kids, a lot of the bullies, it appears, are in precarious situations, even though on the surface they may appear to be in, the perfect American beaver cleaver kind of household. But the reality is there's something out of whack in their environment, and they are being abused, and so they project that and they attack those around them. Have you done a lot of research on this particular subject as you're developing these ideas into a book?
Yes, that's what I'm in the process of doing now, is a lot of the research. And you're spot on, that's exactly it, and very often. And because children are in the stage of creating self-worth, and it's very delicate and very tenuous, especially if they're from a home that creates a vulnerability in them. So if they don't have a strong foundation for their self-worth and they're vulnerable for whatever reason, then that's how they're picked also. That's how they're picked. And the one thing that I just got a hit about is that I believe then it translates as people grow up into adult bullying of each other. And I was thinking the other day, I'm really having trouble with the word bitch. I'm having such trouble with hearing the word bitch. I'm hearing it all the time off of everyone's mouth. And to me, it actually feels, the energy of that word feels like a hit or a slap or a disrespect.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. But I just did a little impromptu poll on Facebook and said, what do you think about the word bitch? You know, do you use it? Do you not use it? How does it make you feel? And a lot of people said that, oh, it's just the word and you shouldn't give away your power to a word. And I found that very interesting because it feels to me like that's a patriarchal outcome. So when you have a patriarchal society, even in this case it was women, even the women start doing it because it's all made to be okay. And I think maybe there's some power trying to be taken back from it, but I just really wish people would stop using that word. It's really bothering me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you know, in the classic interpretation, anybody who is a breeder realizes that the word comes from having a female, like a female dog,
right.
that they are using for the purpose of breeding.
Right.
So there is a certain subtle diminishing going on when the word is used, because it reduces the individual to that image, even if it's a self-projected image, of being perhaps a baby factory or being a lower level of humanity, being in service, but not in a voluntary way or in a spiritual way, but being in service in a very dark way in many instances to a very negative intention.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And I'm trying to, I would love to come up with a phrase, something that I could just, you know, I request people not to use it if they're using it, you know, to me or around me. I say, can we choose another word? But I really think it's important for us, not just that word, you know, the C word for a woman, and just is repulsive to me and demeaning, and it drives me crazy when people say it, you know. And it seems there's not a male counterpart. It's interesting. There really isn't a male counterpart that is used in such a derogatory sense that the men feel it in the same way I believe. I've talked to a number of men about it, and they couldn't come up with anything. You know, it seems to be a female thing. Or races, of course, there's the racial slurs. But I think we need to clean up our language. I think we need to bring heart and spirit and respect back into our language and not let it be said around us. I think it's important. I think it's time to appreciate that the service of a person, the God in each of us, the spark in each of us, and stop with this language. It just really...
Well, I think you know, as far as, I don't think it is necessarily a reflection of just a male-based patriarchal society, because we see within the male side of the spectrum words that are an obvious reference just to a particular part of the anatomy. You know, you call somebody a prick or a dick or something like that, asshole. Right. So everything that goes along that venue, everything that travels down that road, is designed to, number one, attach our identity to a physical presence rather than our spiritual identity. It identifies with body, and it identifies with parts of the body that are, by you know, historical connotation, are obscene parts of the body. You know, whether it is actually obscene or not is entirely up to the individual. Right. But nonetheless, if you go back and historically look at the situation, we diminish each other men against men, men against women, women against men, whatever. By referring to ourselves in terms of degradation and degrading us to the lowest biological functions of our physical identity. So really, I think the healing in regions like this is not so much gender specific, but is based on the realization that I am a spiritual being, I am an expression of divinity, and I am so closely and intimately connected to divinity that when I am in my highest state of awareness, it is indiscernible between me and thee, between creator and creation. So when people go around talking about how they are God in manifestation, they're true. That is an accurate statement, but they don't necessarily comprehend the meaning of it because they haven't had the mystical aspect on the level of experience. But when you start to move more deeply into mystical Christianity, mystical Buddhism, mystical Islam, all of the different schools, when you approach that deeper region, you suddenly begin to realize that there is no segregation, and there is no separation, and there is no gentrification. Because in reality, it all becomes this one unified, magical, transcendent identity that encompasses everything, and that encompassing thought, that encompassing power, is the power of love.
Right.
Love is the element that propels. Love is life in expression. And once you begin to start to recognize how profoundly you are transcending that negative identity, you start to unconsciously notice your vocabulary, your communication intention start to shift and go to a higher plateau. So are you of the opinion that perhaps the real issue is the issue of identity for all of us?
I think it feels like perhaps because the light is getting brighter, the shadow is also getting brighter, or more
deeper. Yes.
Thank you. Because of it. So I think we're at like the 100th monkey point. I believe we're there, and it is jarring to me now. It's starting to become jarring that when I'm hearing people who are teachers and on a path and we're doing the work, and they're still using the language that I think, like you said so beautifully, degrades us all, male or female. And so I know I can only be responsible for me and those people who bump up against me. So I can't be responsible for them, but I mean, I can say something, like I can use my voice. So I can make sure that when I speak of a person, I am speaking to their divine peace. And I try very hard to always come from a love-based place. And since I'm human, I mess up a lot, but I'm pretty good at it too. So thank you for the giggle, Miss Marcella. And
I think you're perfect, by the way.
Okay, good. Thank you. So I know myself I had an amazing mystical experience one time when I was doing walking meditation. And I was a couple miles into it, and I was in the middle of a river on a bridge, and I was doing stretches. And suddenly, I saw myself above myself, and I saw myself on the bridge. And then I saw myself in the county. Then I saw myself in the state, and then in America, then on the planet. And I had this oneness, this amazing oneness of we are all part of the divine being. And I likened it to I'm a cell, and I'm responsible for this cell and all the cells to be healthy, to come from love, so that when other cells bump into me, they only get nourished, and they only get love, and they get maybe neutrality, but they won't get negativity, and they won't get hate, and they won't get anything that is detrimental to their cell life, because it would be like shooting myself in the foot, because it's all us. We're all one. Mm-hmm. So I suddenly saw no boundaries, no borders, no difference in the peoples. It was the peoples were just like this cheek cell and this elbow cell and this fingernail cell and my knee cell, you know. It was just all part of Gaia, you know, Mother Earth. So when I came down to me, back to me, I don't know if an hour went by or a split second went by, and nor does it matter. But from that place, I got a different vision, and I have a different way of being in the world. And my self-worth and my self-love and my self-care started coming into the fore. Like I knew I needed to take care of myself. I need to take care of my cell, because everyone counts on me to be the healthiest, best me. So that was this amazing thing. So I think the language part is part of it for me. I think that's why I don't want any, like, you know, chemicals at me, you know, like negative chemicals. So it's one of the things propelling my book for kids, is to help them see what you so beautifully said about, you know, what's underneath of the bully, and it's almost always pain, and so it then won't affect our self-worth as much. So that's where I'm at.
Well, you know, it's interesting because this is the second time in less than a week that I have had discussion with somebody who has brought up the imagery of this bridge. And my immediate response, because my generation, I'm 68 years old now, so a lot of us who are in that, you know, that strata, remember when Dr. Timothy Leary and Dr. Alpert started doing the LSD experiments, and then ultimately journeyed to India and started looking for a deeper connection to something beyond what could be classified or categorized or illuminated as being just the physical brain function, just, you know, the thought process going on in the mind. And when Dr. Alpert re-emerged in the next phase of his evolution, he came back as Ram Dass, Baba Ram Dass.
Right.
And in his book, Be Here Now, he has a little illustration, and there is this person standing on a bridge looking down at the river, and there's another person in a boat floating by, and Ram Dass said, "You are standing on a bridge watching yourself floating down the river. You know, this is the journey of life. This is what is actually going on here, even though you may not entirely recognize the phenomenon or the process." So apparently right now, I think that this would be the strongest message perhaps of our dialogue tonight, is that people are ready. It's not a need, but people are ready to take that shift personally and get themselves up to that self that is the observer. And the way that we arrive at the connection to that observing self is we lose our sense of personal self. The personal self is the lowest form of the ego. So it is vulnerable on every level. It can be attacked, so therefore it attacks. It can be deceptive, so therefore it lies and deceives. I mean, all of these different components of
Right.
our corporeal existence are what we are always putting our attention on. The visceral experience. Life is cathartic. I feel the air in my lungs. I smell the breeze. I la 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 la. It's all the physical thing. And yet there is a deeper part of self that is completely disassociated from physical sensation and is living in that realm where everything, once again, is experiential on the level of love. And in that realm, nobody knows about fear or hatred or animosity or attack or revenge, all of the negative aspects of the human experience. So it seems like this is the vibration, perhaps, flowing through the universe right now. This is a theme that you have identified, and you're presenting it in your way. Another person I talked to a couple of days ago had identified the exact same theme. And once again, immediately my mind goes to Ram Dass, who so beautifully presented that to us back in like 1970 or 71.
Wow.
When he wrote that book, Be Here Now. And maybe it's time to review that book. People want to take the step to arriving at this plateau where you're no longer feeling like, oh, this guy's attacking me and that person's going to beat me up and I need to protect myself. I'm going to go buy a gun and blah, 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 blah. That kind of state of mind is a magnet for those kinds of experiences.
Right.
So we are on the periphery collectively of perhaps taking that step up to the elevated place where we can actually, in an impersonal way, observe ourselves and say, my God, look at my little ego down there and what I've created and what has been presented to me and how I've responded to all of the components that are currently a part of my life theme. And perhaps it's time to withdraw my attention from the negative.
Yeah, I mean, oh, wow, Chris, that was so perfectly said and so beautiful. I didn't know, I mean, I've heard of Ram Dass. I haven't done any studying, or I didn't know about that. I'm definitely going to look at that book. That's amazing, that image is there. That's very interesting to me. So what do you think is, okay, I recently had a session, and the client heart wanted to take a step, but they were so entrenched in their own ego and crap that they couldn't even see anything I was saying. Like, they knew some of the logic of what I was saying. They actually saw it logically. That's how their brain works. But, so what do you think would be, so what I do is when I am not getting somebody to hear what they've asked me to tell them, I throw love at it. So I just love them and believe by loving them, perhaps their vibration will raise a little, and the piece that they're desiring will become more focused. But do you have any advice in teaching when you are talking to somebody who steps in that they're willing and then keep on putting up barrier after barrier after barrier?
Well, from my experience, the parallel that I will draw is with Course in Miracles. I first picked up Course in Miracles back in 1996, and I read through it very, very rapidly. I mean, I just devoured the book. It was like, oh my God, this is perfect. I mean, I've been on a water and bread diet for so long, and now the banquet table has been placed in front of me.
Nice.
So, but with the Course, there were a lot of ideas that when I did the first reading, I had such resistance to these ideas that I had completely blanked them out. And then 2 years later, when I reread the Course, it was like, oh my God, I don't remember this passage, and oh, this idea. So what's happening is that it's very much like a computer virus, like some kind of a tapeworm placed into the mind.
God.
And it works on its own. In other words, if you pick up A Course in Miracles and you read it today, you may say, I cannot handle this. You'll put it down. You'll walk away from it. But it's already, it's already infected you. It's already starting to work, and it has a systemic effect. It's going on within you on this very profound level. And what will happen is 20 years or 2 years or however long is necessary, it will have come full circle. So that then when you pick it up and you reread it, you go, oh my God, I've known this all my life. I've believed this all my life. But some part of me just absolutely suppressed it. It was like, oh my God, there's a forest fire. Get out the shovel, get out the water hose, let's put this fire out. So what you're doing by putting the seed into their consciousness and then fertilizing it and watering that seed with love, you don't have to wait to see the results. You can go on with the absolute assurance that it is going to find its own time to gestate. And then it will develop roots, and then it will begin to come up from the surface and break through the surface, and then that first leaf will emerge, and then another leaf. So in reality, there is nothing more that you can do. The only thing that you have to do is to step back from the need to see the breakthrough.
Well, thank you for that reminder, because one of my mantras that I forgot, and I have to admit I forgot in frustration, because this particular person was so wanting, and that pulled me in a little. Because one of my mantras that I live by for quite a few years now is, I don't care if I'm the first person, the second person, the third person, or the aha person to tell somebody something or to bring it to their attention. I'm happy, truly, truly happy with either of those or all of those. So I don't care if I'm the person who is the first seed, nor do I have to be the aha, when it flowers. But I have to admit, I forgot this week. I did, because I was so drawn in by their desire, their desire was so intoxicating and painful. So I forgot the observer part of me in that. So thank you for that reminder.
Oh, absolutely. And, one of the things that I also, the last couple of weeks here, have been drawn back to over and over again, it's a very, very brief passage in the New Testament where after Jesus is baptized by John the Baptist, there is this comprehension of his true identity, the multi-leveled alignment, where he comes to recognize his own Christ consciousness.
Right.
And then he goes out into the desert for 40 days. And at the end of his passage in the desert, he is tempted by what the Bible calls Satan. And of course, those of us who are able to read between the lines of Catholicism or, Episcopalianism or Baptistism, all the isms recognize that the Satan, the devil guy in the drama, is actually our own ego that is always going to tempt us. It's like, gee, you haven't eaten in 40 days, so why don't you turn these stones into loaves of bread?
Right.
And within this very brief part of the journey that Jesus was on, the thing that I am very much drawn to is that idea of being in the desert and realizing that in this place that is very zen, you have limited vegetation. You have rocks and dirt and pebbles and the wind blowing. And other than that, there really isn't anything happening out there. And as a part of that process of putting yourself into a state where there's nothing to stimulate you. I mean, for the first 3 days, Jesus undoubtedly was going, oh, wow, look, there's a beetle on the ground, and, oh, gee, those clouds look like the face of Moses, and whatever. But then it starts to wind down, and it winds down, and it winds down. And eventually, all the chatter, all the voices come to a point of cessation. And then at that point of cessation, there is a sudden shift in consciousness that you can actually internalize and embrace. So first we have the idea of a baptism. Okay, you are spirit. And Jesus says, yeah, wow, I am spirit. But then when he goes out into the desert, he actually takes possession of that, because he's stopped all of this peripheral anxiety and expectation and everything else. And within that, he comes to the realization of just what you're talking about in your own fashion. He comes to the understanding of the power of words. And when you are always thinking and always churning up these thoughts, if you really stop and observe them, you'll notice that you have a good thought. Oh, I love this person. Look at that idiot over there. I can't stand that person. So you've always got, you know, this incredible drama going on in your mind. You have got these attack thoughts. You have got these loving, embracing thoughts. And you've got an ongoing Daffy Duck kind of movie going in your brain. Now, if your mind is in actual fact a generator of phenomena, and every spiritual school has said, you know, the manifestation comes from the spoken word, and the spoken word comes from the mind. So if the mind is generating all these different things, and you are constantly chattering, you're constantly saying all this stuff, you're stirring the pot. You're creating all this garbage going on in your environment. And the way that you can begin to take a step back from that is to give yourself more and more opportunity to go into your own personal desert and to still the mind. And within that, you'll begin to notice, oh, you know, the fires are going out. I no longer have a flat tire when I go out in the morning and have to drive to work. I no longer have, you know, the raging dog chasing me down the street, because all of this mental churning and turning and regurgitation of the same old thoughts showing up in different formats is the actual process wherein you are creating what's going on in your environment.
Right.
So perhaps that is, you know, the supreme realization we can get from that idea of Jesus in the desert, or of Siddhartha going up the river and isolating himself and sitting under the Bodhi tree. You know, and he's under the Bodhi tree when all of a sudden he has the complete realization of who he is, or what he is, because it transcends, again, that personal identity. And all of a sudden you see the immensity of self, and you're going, oh my God, you know, how profound is this? So you're right on track with that idea of looking at your words. But I think perhaps we need to take it down to an even deeper level of even the good words. It's not just about the bad words, but even the good words are always stimulating things. And so if we can tone it down just a few minutes every day and put our intention into creating more and more of those empty regions, then we can step into our own peace. We can step into our own place of transcendent identity and transcendent awareness.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I agree 1,000%. And it was about 14 years ago. I took off on a cross-country trip, just my dog and I, in an RV. And I just started traveling, sold my home, sold everything, gave everything away. I just went on a pilgrimage. And silence was important for me during it. The whole trip, I never once had music on the radio. It was silent the whole traveling out west. I was in Florida, and I went out west. First stop was Albuquerque, New Mexico. And it was powerful, the silence. And I go to silence a lot. And I notice, however, when I'm under big stress, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's especially when I should. So this is excellent reminder for me to go back into silence, because I was so full spiritually after those few years of just, I still dealt with people and talked with people, and but I was silent for days at a time. I mean, it was fantastic. And so I believe that's when my spiritual life really started blossoming. And because I just appreciated the vastness of America, I appreciated the vastness of the world, and also the community that we were. So it was quite lovely. And yeah, it was really powerful. So within my own little cell, like I spoke of, I really try to keep a lot of serenity and quiet and meditation. But I haven't for a couple weeks now. Isn't that interesting?
So, I would love for you to tell us about on your trip. About your grandfather that you met.
Oh, this was a wonderful. So I would travel, like I said, to. First stop was Albuquerque, and it took like 8 days, and it was a high-profile vehicle, and I was terrified. I'd never driven anything like that. It wasn't real big, but it was high. And so my muscles on my arms got like rocks because I was gripping the steering wheel so much. Oh, yeah. So I get to Albuquerque, and I don't know if either of you have been in Albuquerque, but there's like 18 exits. I didn't know that. I just took the first exit. Because, I was from areas where there's only a couple exits. So I take the first exit, park, and hook up the RV. And so I wanted to go down to Old Town. And I get in a bus. And, the truth is, I was a country girl. I had never driven in a bus before that. And this is 14 years ago, so 40s. And I get in the bus, and here my stop is at the end. So everybody was very kind, and they're talking to me, and they found I'm new in town, so they're telling me Mondays go here for cheap propane, Tuesdays go to this restaurant for free tortillas, Wednesday go here. And I just couldn't get over the people. So everybody's, each person's getting out of the bus, every stop, people are getting out. And this elderly gentleman who was Native American stopped by me when he was coming out, and he goes, "Granddaughter, welcome home." And I go, "Oh, sir, I don't know you." I didn't say I don't know you. I go, "Oh, sir, I'm sorry, you must have me confused with someone." And he goes, "Granddaughter, welcome home." And he gets off the bus, and he was the last person other than me. And the bus driver, there's the big rear view mirror, this big, it's up there, and he looks up and he goes, "Do you know who that was?" And I go, "No." He goes, "That was the Navajo medicine man." And it just, I went, whoa, And so I thought, okay, I just drove 3,000 miles, I guess I'm home. And it felt like that when I hit that state, and I loved it. And I felt like I regained pieces of me. I felt like I had a soul retrieval as I was traveling at different spots. But the silence allowed me to be open for it, is what I thought at the time. And people said, "Aren't you bored?" I'm thinking, oh my God, how can you be bored in silence? I mean, so much is revealed.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yes, I know. I can't get over every time somebody says, "Aren't you bored?" Without, I go, God, there's so much wonderful stuff when you're silent.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty wonderful. Thanks for asking, Marcella.
And that particular region, you're talking about Sandia Crest and the
Mm-hmm.
Sandia Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
Geographically, there are only two places on the planet with the same energy, the same vibration, and the other one is in Afghanistan. And it is an area that was a part of the Silk Road where there were constant travelers going through the region. And of course, in Albuquerque, uh, of over the centuries, because of the Rio Grande River, there was a lot of migration that went up and down that region. And the Sandia Crest, when you are driving on the backside of the mountains, you'll notice
Mm-hmm.
your radio goes in and out.
Right.
Your compass spins wildly.
Right.
Uh, there are phenomena that happen there that are unique to that region. And
Mm.
I would say that you were probably magnetized to go there when you set out on your journey because that was the area where some kind of very profound internal shift was ready to occur. And all of a sudden you have this medicine man who says, you know, recognize your true self. You are the granddaughter. There is a family here.
Right.
So yeah, that's a beautiful story, and it's something that I can completely relate to.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, and literally, it was at the crest, the Sandia
Hmm.
crest. That's
Yes,
literally where it happened. Old Route
exactly.
66, right there.
Hmm. Yeah, you go through Tucumcari and then over the mountain,
Yeah,
and then there is Albuquerque, and then if you head north, you find Santa Fe,
right.
which is I believe it to be the oldest continuously inhabited settlement by the Spanish Mexican community in North America.
Oh,
People in St.
lovely.
Augustine, Florida, will argue about that,
Right.
uh, but the energy there is much more has much more of an anchor. I feel the
Yeah.
roots when I'm in Santa Fe, and then if you continue north, you encounter this magnificent mountain and this amazing puebla, and it's called Taos
Mm-hmm.
Puebla, and
Mm-hmm.
that that is a home that the culture has been perfectly preserved in. Most of the other pueblos in the region have gone through mutations and variations, but if you want to see the pure Puebla culture, you have to go to Taos and participate in a powwow there,
Mm.
observe the arts that are being performed there, that sort of thing. But all of this is the Rio Grande Valley, and the reason that that river is called the Rio Grande is that it's a big, magnificent waterway that
Right.
goes down into the Gulf of Mexico, and it brings water from the heights of the mountain peaks in Colorado. So, very profound journey that you set out on.
I did. And I didn't know, the only reason I went to Albuquerque was because somebody said, you should go to Albuquerque. And I said, oh, okay.
Hmm.
Somebody else said, why are you going to Albuquerque? I said, I don't know. Somebody said I should, you seem like an Albuquerque sort of person. And that's the truth. And everybody kept going, you're just driving out there and you have nobody, no, nothing. It's just you and your dog. I go, yep, I'm to go to Albuquerque.
Hmm.
And when I crossed, I was in Colorado, and I had left super early because of the high winds, because I was getting blown all over the place with this high-profile vehicle. And I crossed, and suddenly everything turned pink. And I felt my heart open. And I said, oh, I'm in New Mexico. And right after that, a sign said, welcome to New Mexico.
Yes.
And you were so right. It was like a magnetic pull. Uh, that was exactly how I got there. It was like calling me. And I
Hmm.
went, and I listened. I was in a place of listening and surrendering and just going, you know. Couldn't believe I did it, but I did. Happy I did.
Well, now, have you read Steinbeck's Travels with Charlie?
No. Well, I think I did, like, a long time ago for school, but I have no memory of it right now.
Oh, you've got to pick it up and reread it then, because
okay, I will.
John Steinbeck gave us all these very depressing stories about the Great Depression and
right.
and the roughest times in the history of North America in the 19th and 20th century. But then later in life, he takes off with very much a similar situation. He has a camper on the back of his truck and his dog Charlie. And he goes on his own personal exodus and travels and journals as he's experiencing America, because he was trying, his idea, his theme was, I want to write about the real America. I want to write about, you know, the immediate America that you encounter when you go out and travel.
Right.
And it sounds like you had very much a similar journey.
I did. It's fantastic.
Yes, and you discovered an America that was much more entrenched in spirit than you had ever imagined you could find.
That's the truth. It's fantastic. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I strongly suggest it for anyone. Just go.
Yeah, we're all pilgrims, and we forget that we're on the journey, and we try to anchor ourselves, and we get stuck. And you know, sometimes we need those disastrous events. Sometimes it's a good thing that somebody burns your house down, because it gets you back on the journey, it gets you back on the path.
Right.
So, and that's taking us full circle when you initiated our conversation tonight and talking about how bad things very often are very important pivotal points, and they are in fact a way of stimulating you to arrive at a much better place than you had been living in.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Full circle.
Well, this has been a delightful dialogue, and we'll have part 2 sometime in the next few weeks here, where we can pick up from this point.
Yeah. Is an hour gone by already? Holy cow, we were in the vortex, man.
Absolutely. Well, you know, as once again, one of my favorite icons of spiritual evolution, Jesus tells us, when 2 or more are gathered in my name, which is the Christ consciousness, you know, I am there also. So this is a process of evocation. We have joined in thought, we have joined in empathy, we have joined in holiness, and we have evoked the presence of the Christ, or the presence of the Buddha, however you want to identify it. And that, right, I think, is really what this show is all about. For people who are just stopping in and just connecting with it, we really want to have more and more dialogue that is a catalyst for that invocation, and
right,
and at the same time pulling out of us the evocation of our own Christ consciousness, our Christ identity. So, Marcella, do you have any important information or updates for us?
I do. If you would like to contact Zen Shoemaker, you can go to her website at yourpersonalzen.com, and I personally recommend her. I've never seen anyone with such a huge heart. She is awesome and amazing, and you know, here at the Firekeeper Circle, we would like to say to you, Zen Shoemaker, welcome home.
Ah, thank you, dear. Thank you.
We love you so much, and Chris, it's just been wonderful being here with you on screen. I just love it. You guys can come to onefeatherjournal.com, and you can set up a personal session with Master Onefeather, who is absolutely amazing. And Master Onefeather, can you send us off with your amazing love tonight?
Well, tonight I'm going to do a real fast little blip from A Course in Miracles, and this is one of my favorite thoughts, because it is very much interwoven with what we've been talking about here, but it also causes us to springboard into a deeper level of realization as to what's going on and what the world is that we are perceiving around us. from the Course it says, seek not to change the world, but choose to change your mind about the world. What you see reflects your thinking, and your thinking but reflects your choice of what you want to see. So do you have a desire to see the darkness in people? Do you have a desire, unconsciously perhaps, to see the broken things, to see, the things that are a testament against the perfection that we all are, and a testament against the perfection of the universe that we do in fact inhabit? So don't try to change the world by going out and getting engaged in causes and, putting all of your energy into a struggle, because the true nature of evolution, personal evolution, and the evolution of the planet is each individual, as you begin to put your focus on the beauty and the love and the perfection that you can actually see in proportion to your desire to see that. And that's what will cause all of us to rise to a higher plateau. And this is the thing that will be the catalyst for the transformation that we're all imagining and talking about and living in expectation of. So get out there, share the love, pass the love around, and you will see some amazing miracles in your own day-to-day experience.